Hello everyone, welcome to the Sybil.heart. I'm Maritza, and this is a tarot reading for Mercury in Pisces. Before we begin, these readings are meant for entertainment and personal enlightenment purposes only. Please do not use these readings to replace any kind of professional advice or to self-diagnose anything. Please approach this reading as though you're having a conversation with a friend. Just like when you have conversations with your friends, you don't always listen to what they have to say or heed their advice. Sometimes you make your own decisions, and I want the same thing to be done here. You don't have to listen to what I have to say. We're just having a conversation with the cards. If some of what I have to say resonates, please take it. And if some or none of it resonates, please just leave it here. That'll be that. By the way, I'm using the Sacred Symbols Oracle and the Supra Oracle. And for the tarot reading, I'm using the Zerner-Farber Tarot. Mercury in Pisces. So we got past life and nature spirits. So past life, intuition. Speaking of intuition, my intuition is telling me that at some point in our past lives, or in your past life, you were closer to nature. You were more connected to nature, and it's calling you to be connected to nature. As connected to nature as you were at that point, or even more so. One way that this can manifest is that you're having a lot of nature elements appear in your dreams. Actually, our dreams are one way to connect to our past lives. So when it comes to past lives, I have this, I don't know if it's a theory or if it's something I've picked up on over the years or that I read somewhere randomly, but I have this idea about the past life is that it's not who we are now that we remember. Like, I don't even know how to explain this, but it's like our spirit or whatever it is that has lived through the ages does not remember exactly who we were, but we get bits and pieces. We get fragments. I'm not sure where I was going with that. But anyway, I also have this like weird kind of negative connection to the past life theory. I don't know. But part of doing ancestor work, which in my opinion is part of this past life theory, we have to not only consider the good stuff about our past lives, but we also have to consider the negative part. So for example, I have Mexican heritage and also of course Spanish heritage. But when those two cultures first met, it was quite tumultuous. And it can get even darker than that, of course. So the Spanish were conquerors, they conquered Mexico or whatever happened. But the other part is that my Mexican heritage or my Mexican ancestors were most likely probably also part of a conquering empire nation type thing. I don't know. I've never done the work I've only heard stories from other people who have more access to information than I do. So I don't really know exactly what part of the Mexican Empire my family comes from, or even what part of the Spanish Empire that part of the family comes from. What I'm trying to get at is doing ancestor work and working with past lives. It's not just about the positives. We also have to consider the negative parts, which means we have to think about actual history and how that history came about. With that being said, I would say there's something about nature and how nature has played a bigger role in the past for us, perhaps as humanity, and how we've sort of in this modern age have disconnected from nature and how we need to go back to nature, but also keeping in mind everything we have learned about nature through science, through observation, through ecological conservation. We bring everything we have learned in the past to gain a greater connection to nature in the present and in the future. We have to be better caretakers of nature so that nature can take care of us. I think intuition is different from instinct, and that intuition is a bit more spiritual but also conscious. It's sort of like a similar feeling to when you bring a dream from the dream state into consciousness. It's a very similar feeling where you bring your intuition from wherever the intuition space is in our psyche, and we bring it into awareness. It's sort of like we know from our past lives how to take care of nature, how to take care of the environment that is meant to provide for us. But somewhere along the line, we lost the connection to our intuition and to nature and to this past life theory. Like, for example, I'm struggling to suspend my disbelief in past lives because I'm skeptical that way. And I can certainly empathize or understand where a person who believes in past lives like wholeheartedly is coming from. I can understand their perspective, but in my own mind and in my own heart, it's something that I struggle to connect with. The evidence of a past life is through the experience of each individual. So there's no real way to prove it. It's just what a person says it is for them. I think I've developed a theme as best as I could. We have the Two of Swords. So some of us may be dealing with an intuition that is telling us that past lives are real, and we're struggling to make that connection, as I tried to illustrate with my own experience. That's the first thing that came up in my mind when I saw the Two of Swords, so I feel like it's important that I state that. Then we have the Nine of Wands. So perhaps those of you who firmly believe in past lives could be feeling like you need to defend that belief. Maybe there's also a struggle within yourself about the belief, and you feel like you have to defend it against yourself. Not to anybody else, but to yourself. Maybe like a reaffirmation. And then we have the Ten of Wands. So it's a heavy emotional burden for you to carry what you feel is true, what you feel gives true meaning to your life. I'm also thinking about the Nature Spirits card, and the Ten of Wands is reminding me that we carry the responsibility of taking care of nature and its spirits, but that we've struggled with that because we've lost that connection to nature in a cultural sense, maybe even in a psychological sense as well, because we don't give nature the proper respect that it deserves. What I'm thinking about right now is it's kind of silly and simple, but there I'm thinking about the dandelions that grow in yards, and how some people pull them out. They think they're weeds. They don't see them for the beauty that they hold. Personally, I love dandelions and I love seeing them grow, and I love the little puffballs that grow. But I have neighbors who use chemicals to get rid of them, or they just pull them out. We have learned to disrespect nature, or to try to control it when it is uncontrollable. And then we wonder why we don't see as many animals in our yards when we use chemicals in the grass that feeds them. And they don't want to eat that. Like, it just makes sense. You use chemicals in your yard and you don't let anything grow except grass. That's probably not even native to your land. And then you wonder why birds and critters aren't living in that space anymore. I mean, that's the story that's coming up in my head anyway. And it makes sense. Anyway, we're struggling to bear the responsibility of being the caretakers of nature in its natural state. And we can take care of something and not control it as well. Nature in its wild state is uncontrollable, but we can give it some shape so that it doesn't overwhelm us. In some ways, we can see this as an inability to connect to our own natural state. I can feel myself kind of having this reaction of like rolling my eyes, or feeling like I'm saying nonsense. But we've lost this connection to nature, which also means we've lost this connection to our natural selves. And we're struggling to find that connection. But I'm looking at the Two of Swords and I'm seeing, it's making me think, this Two of Swords in particular from this deck makes me think about consciousness and dreaming, where when we dream, we can't control what we dream about. We can lucid dream, but even when we lucid dream, we can't control how things show up in our dreams. When we lucid dream, we can ask the dream to show us a pink elephant or whatever, but we do not control how that pink elephant shows up. We don't control what hue of pink the elephant shows up in, or we don't control what the elephant is doing. We can ask the dream to show us something specific, but we can't control how that dream shows us that thing. And what we need, that's sort of one way, not sort of, that is one way to connect to our natural selves, or to have a closer connection to our natural selves. Maybe it's not a direct connection, because if we had a direct connection to our natural selves, we would be completely wild and chaotic, probably. So we need a balance. We need to be aware, conscious, and that involves being aware of societal customs and laws and dealing with the consequences of all of our actions, good or bad. Good actions can have negative consequences, and of course, as we all know, bad actions can have good consequences. The same goes the other. Good actions have good consequences, bad actions have bad consequences. What I'm saying is we should think about our actions and the possible consequences that they can have, whether it's good or bad, pros and cons, and whether it weighs against your heart. Do you have the ability to judge whether something is good or evil? Do you have the strength of character to go against doing something evil, even when you know it's going to get you something good in the end? Why am I talking about that? Oh, connection to our nature. What is our nature? What is our true nature? If you're a pessimist, you would probably say something like, all humans are terrible if they're left to their own devices, which I wouldn't fault you for believing that way. So the Two of Swords makes me think about that connection, or trying to develop that connection to our natural selves, to the part of ourselves that continues to be part of nature, that has continued from past life to past life until now. I think this is going to need a watch in the extended version. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to go to the Patreon page and become a member, that's fine too. But please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Give this video a like, leave a comment. Please, I welcome discussion. If you have any interesting thoughts about past lives, please do discuss in the comments. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.